Okay, hello everybody. Today is Saturday, November the 6th, and this is my podcast, Spiritual Sense. I'm going to actually record a couple of podcasts today. Um, so for those who may be tuning in, that wants to view in, this podcast today is under my Spiritual Sense piece, and I mentioned that the Spiritual Sense podcast encompasses topics in regards to um, belief systems, whether it be pagan or non-pagan, religious practices. I also incorporate tarot card into the Spiritual Sense as well. So that's today's topic is the practice or the religion of Santeria. I just went out and got breakfast today. Something just prompted me. Let me speak on Santeria because Santeria has a lot of um, African roots. I don't know much about Santeria. I've looked Santeria up a couple of times in the past, and I do know that it ultimately comes from Africa, the motherland. And as I mentioned, I did look Santeria up in the past, but I didn't do too much extensive research on the practice or the religion of Santeria. I was actually going to do a podcast on another religion today, and then something prompted me, speak about this religion because this religion is pretty much a spinoff of hoodoo, if you may. So, so I will proceed. I'm on a website, and I really don't like to, for time purposes, I don't like to read the content verbatim, but because I don't have much information on it, I will kind of touch around on it. But I am on a website. I'm not going to disclose which website I'm on. But it says, what is Santeria? So it says the religion is one of the cultural aspects that ties Afro-Caribbean people to their African descent. Referred to Regla del Ashe. I guess that's how you would say it. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm just, Santeria is an Afro-Caribbean religion that emerged out of Spanish colonization of Cuba. It is syncretic. It is a syncretic religion that comprises elements of both Yoruba, which is Western African tradition, and Roman Catholicism. The Santeria meaning in English is ways of the saints. Those who really understand the tenets of this religion from a cultural standpoint actively practice it. However, people who mistake it for witchcraft continue to criticize it and discourage its practice. So I do also want to disclaim my my statement. Um, when I give these presentations or these webinars or do the podcasting on different, belief systems and religion and things of that nature, I may give my opinion. I try not to give it too, you know, much, to be honest with you. I may, have the whole point that I'm getting at is I'm not here to judge nor um criticize or be critical of anybody's belief and practice. You believe and practice what you want to believe and practice. I'm just here being not necessarily nosy, but just inquiring about it. We all do things that the average person may deem to be abnormal or not kosher. So I'm not one to judge your belief. If that's what your belief is, then that's what your belief is. Because if you begin to do a more extensive research on a lot of the practices and belief, you'll be surprised that a lot of these same beliefs and customs and cultures that you work around, you married to, you accompany with, and you may even be practicing some of these same things, but you don't call it that. But essentially, it's the same thing. It's just given a different, name, but it's essentially the same thing. So um, it says the origin and development of Santeria. It said Africa has and continues to be the place of origin for several Afro based religions practiced in the Caribbean and many other parts of the world today. The origin of Santeria can be traced back to the 16th century when slaves from West Africa first arrived in the colonial Cuba to work on plantations. Prior to their arrival, the Spaniards established a colony in the island after Christopher Columbus' discovery of the Caribbean region. Okay, the Spaniards introduced Roman Catholicism as the dominant religion in the island. So when the African slaves realized that their masters did not approve of their traditional African religion, they developed Santeria, a religion that merged two completely religious systems, the tradition of Yoruba religion and worship of God, the Roman Catholic way. This way, the Afro Cubans could practice Roman Catholicism while maintaining reverence for their ancestors. So it says Santeria's belief. Almost every religion is based on the belief that there is a connection between human beings and a powerful being, God, a powerful supernatural being, God. The Santeria religion is no different. Those who practice this religion worship mortal spirits known as Orishas. It is believed that the Orishas help followers to achieve their destiny from God. It says the impact of Roman Catholic Church on the Santeria faith. The Catholic faith left an indelible mark on the traditional religion of Yoruba people who were taken to Spanish Cuba to work as laborers on sugar plantations. However, coming up with the Santeria religion was relatively easy because the primary belief that there exist supreme beings had already been established by the Roman Catholics. The various aspects of Catholicism that can be seen in the Santeria religion includes, and we will proceed. So it says they celebrate Easter holiday to remember God's ultimate sacrifice through the crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Followers of the Santeria religion mark this sacrificial rite by performing Ebo, a sacrifice of harvest or animals to appease and thank their God. There are close similarities in the roles that some Catholic saints and Orishas play. For example, Santeria's Babaluaye is syncretized with the Church's Saint Lazarus, and both are associated with healing of the sick. In a similar vein, the Babalowo, the highest priest of Santeria, is associated with Saint Francis of Assisi of the Catholic Church. Some Catholic symbols are used when performing Santeria rituals. So it says, okay, so I'm going to give my opinion on this. So this goes back and pretty much ties to the podcast that I mentioned when I said about the beginning of the religion of Wicca. The core believers of the religion of Wicca may not have intended it to be what it was or what it is today. And through the manipulation, control, and confusion, it has spun off into something else. So again, when you begin to force your belief systems on people, now I think we as beings of God, or spiritual beings is what I'm getting at. Typically, the average person without any mental concerns, nutritional deficiencies, or physical concerns, emotional concerns, but the average person in a normal given situation, no right from wrong, unless there's some defect or decline, but I'm not talking about that. Outside of that, apart from that, typically people know right from wrong. It's just plain simple, give or take. So when you begin to force people to feel and think as you feel and think, when it serves your purpose, this is where you would get resentment. And that's when those dark forces migrate. So when you are thinking on a bigger scale, ultimately they do these things to these people to cause them to do things that are considered dark or evil or wrong. It's the point. So it's a reverse psychology. I'm gonna get you to do this so I can get you in turn to do that, so to speak. Because this is essentially what this is. And I believe the practice of Wicca works the same way, even though I'm not speaking on Wicca, but I'm just referencing the two. It's the same way. When you begin to try to make people see things your way, which is in the detriment, which is in their detriment and into your benefit, you will foster a lot of this demonic, evil, dark forces. Is essentially what that is. So let's proceed. It says differences between Santeria religion and the Roman Catholic Church. Key differences between the two religious systems include ancestor worship is the fundamental doctrine of the Santeria religion. Before any ritual is carried out, worshippers make prayers to the ancestors with reverence. Catholic followers, on the other hand, believe that they can directly communicate with God through prayer. Unlike the Catholic Church, which uses readings from the Holy Bible to teach its followers, Santeria teachings are strictly passed on to people by word of mouth. You know what? To be honest with you, I said in a previous podcast, I'm just going to just touch on this real quick, that I did believe that a lot of my belief system coincide with Catholicism. I did. Even though I don't consider myself a Catholic, but some of the concepts of Catholic, and I don't want to offend no Catholics out there, so please don't feel offended by this. But I honestly feel like the focus, because I do know in Catholicism, I don't know much about Catholicism, and not to offend Catholicism. That's why that's one of the religions that I did not choose to speak on, because it's highly revered in certain instances. However, I do know that Catholics focused on the mother as opposed to the son. And so that aspect of Catholicism, I could say, okay, yeah, yes, I get what you're saying essentially. Um, my whole belief on Jesus and things like that. I do believe there was a Jesus that's once walked these lands, um, in other parts of the world, meaning on Earth. I do. I do believe that that was the spirit of God coming back as man. I also believe that um, he comes back everywhere. That's not the only um that's not the only scenario. That is the hallmark scenario. That is the monumental example. This is something that happens on a continuous basis, is my point. You were seeing in your everyday walks of life. This is not um Just that moment in time. This is a continuous basis. This is a continuous thing. You will see it in people. God will have it in your spirit to eye to where you can grasp it and you can see it. Anybody could be a Jesus. Anybody could be used as an example. Is the point. And as in relation to this time and space, as we know it, you will find that typically you'll sit in a lot of celebrities. You'll sit in a lot of people that are typically like in some type of position where they can reach millions, thousands, even millions, or even perhaps billions of people, so to speak. It's a monumental message to be displayed. It's what the purpose of that whole synopsis is all about. It's the point. Even if your everyday walks of life, you will see it. In your, when somebody's getting ready to transition, from this time and space to, the afterlife. You will see it in that. You will see it in, you know, um, when God is, you pray a prayer about something that you've been so cloudy and fuzzy about, and all of a sudden somebody just walks up and just speaks, and you can tell that they don't know what they're talking about, but somehow God got them in a trance to where they gonna bring the information to you that you need to hear. Is my point. So let's proceed. The bottom line is Santeria isn't satanic. It's just misunderstood. So basically, ignorance. Ignorance. When you are ignorant to the fact of things and you don't truly know nor understand it, you'll go off and say whatever. You got to believe, you got to live what these people live. You got to understand the history of what these people went through during those times. Because, people felt as though, and we all do it. You have to check yourself, and you have to honestly check your what? You have to check the ego. Even in your everyday walks of life. If you see somebody who may not be as attractive, appealing, physically appealing, emotionally mature, knowledgeable, the first thing, this is human nature, people will want to do is what? She's stupid, he's ugly, she's fat, he's nasty. We all do these things. So it works the same way with these people because of, when we don't understand a person or a group of people, the first thing we want to do is criticize. And oftentimes when the enemy has his needs that he wants met, he will use whatever psychological and spiritual breakdown to get his desires met. So I could understand why these people during those times and such as now feel the need to go off into these, what I would be deemed alternative ways of practicing. Because you got to realize, you coming over here asking me to do all this stuff, and I don't see you doing it. So you have to realize Satan is very satanic and very demonic, oftentimes. So it says Santeria is often depicted as a demonic or evil religion. As you have just read, this is far from the truth. The misconceptions revolving around this Afro-Caribbean religion are primarily as a result of the outside world's misunderstanding of its origin and development. Throughout the world, people are guided by the tenets of religion drawn from their past. Therefore, it is important for people to stop blind criticism of the Santeria religion and instead strive to gain a better understanding of its tenets. If this Afro-based Caribbean religion was as evil as some people say it is, it wouldn't be gaining fellowship all around the world. So I think that was a very good piece. I'm going to go on another website and see if I can gain a little bit more information. So I am on a website, and so I do know that Santeria, the religion, believe in sacrifice. I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up Wikipedia. Wikipedia is going to have some very extensive information on it. Um, if you decide, okay, um, it's going to have some very extensive information in regards to um, a variety of topics. Okay, so this is Wikipedia. Santeria is an African diasporic religion that developed in Cuba during the late 19th century. It arose through the process of syncretism between the tradition Yoruba religion of West Africa, the Roman Catholic form of Christianity, and Spiritism. There is no central authority in control of Santeria, and much diversity exists among practitioners who are known as Creatists or believers. So it says Santeria is polytheistic and it revolves around deities called Orishas, deriving their names and attributes from traditional Yoruba divinities. They are equated with Roman Catholic saints. Each human is believed to have a personal link to a particular Orisha who influences their personality. Various myths are told about their Orishas, who are regarded as subservient to Alodumare, a transcendent creator deity. Alodumare is believed to be the ultimate source of Arshe, a supernatural force permeating the universe that can be manipulated through ritual actions. Practitioners venerate the Orishas at altars, either in the home or in the castle temple, which is run by a Santero, which is a priest, or a Santera, a priestess. Membership of the castle requires initiations. Offerings to the ritual includes fruit, liquor, flowers, and sacrificed animals. A central ritual is the Tour de Santo, in which practitioners drum, sing, and dance to encourage an Orisha to possess one of their members and thus communicate with them. Several forms of divination are used, including Ishfa, to decipher messages from the Orisha. Offerings are also given to the spirits of the dead, with some practitioners identifying as spirit mediums. Healing rituals and preparation of herbal remedies and talismans also play a prominent role. Santeria developed among Afro-Cuban communities following the Atlantic slave trade of the 16th to 19th centuries. It's formed through the blending of traditional religions brought to Cuba by enslaved West Africans, the majority of them Yoruba and Roman Catholicism, the only religion legally permitted on the island by the Spanish colonial government. In the urban areas of West Cuba, these traditions merge by spiritual ideals merged with spiritist ideas to form the earliest casas during the late 19th century. After the Cuban War of the Independence resulted in an independent republic in 1898, its new constitution enshrined freedoms of religion. Santeria nevertheless remained marginalized by Cuba's Roman Catholic Euro-Cuban establishment, which typically viewed it as brujeria, witchcraft, uh, Bulgaria or Bulgaria. I couldn't pronounce that. It's Burjeria. I guess that's Bulgaria. In the 1960s, growing immigration following the Cuban Revolution spread Santeria abroad. The late 20th century saw growing links between Santeria and related traditions in West Africa and America, such as Haitian voodoo and Brazil candomblé. Since the late 20th century, some practitioners have emphasized a Europeization process to remove Roman Catholic influences and create forms of Santeria closer to traditional Yoruba religion. Practitioners of Santeria are primarily found in Cuba, La Habana, and Matanzas provinces, although communities exist across the island and abroad, especially among the Cuban diasporas of Mexico and the United States. The religion remains most common among working class Afro Cuban communities,